students, how's everyone? I'm Ankana, your master teacher for social sciences at Vedantu, hoping all of you are doing just amazing at your home. Do tell me in the comment section, how are you guys doing? How are you feeling? Midterms are approaching, all these exams are coming, and I mean it's very overwhelming, I know. So do tell me guys, how are you doing? And of course, don't forget to ask any questions that you have in your mind. And let's get started with the second chapter called Federalism. Now, before I move forward, let's quickly discuss the homework questions answer from the previous session of the power sharing, of the chapter power sharing. The answer was A, power sharing between organs of the government. Okay. Who has won this? Who is there on the leaderboard? Suman Kumari, Minipi Padmani and Aditya Raj Pandey. Congrats guys, I'm so proud of you. People, remember, all of your names can come here. All you're supposed to do is make sure that you're answering very fast in the comment box, but you're not just in the live chat. I keep telling this to everyone. And of course, don't forget to like the video and subscribe the channel, and your name will be here on the leaderboard. Okay. So guys, today we're going to talk about what is federalism and what qualifies India as a federal country. What makes India a federal country? And of course, in the end, 1 mark, very important homework question, very important from the perspective of examination. Guys, don't forget to attend that, and of course put your answers in the comment box so that your name can also come on the leaderboard and you get a sure 1 mark in your examination as well. So stay tuned. We will definitely discuss about it, but let's first learn what do we mean by federalism. So if you remember guys, I actually mentioned this word, mentioned this chapter in the previous session when we were discussing about power sharing. So if we talk about federalism, a very simple approach to that would be sharing. Okay. Now if sharing is happening, there has to be something to be shared, right? So what is being shared? So if I have to remember that federalism is nothing else but sharing, I also have to remember what is being shared over here. So bacha, what gets shared in a federal government, in a federal kind of government, is power. Right? We have discussed all kinds of power sharing in the previous session. So this is a build up just on that, as you know, as you correct, that power is shared as discussed in the previous sessions of power sharing of lesson 1 in a federal government. If you have not watched those videos, make sure that you are pausing it here. First, go learn about power sharing. 2 very small, quick sessions we have on that, and then quickly come back here so that it's easier for you to understand this chapter. Okay, so as I told you that a power sharing is happens in a federal government. Now, if sharing is happening, bacha, of course we need people. We need, different parties to do that sharing. Who will share? If I'm just alone, who will I share with? I would need somebody, a partner, or another person to share my power with, or anything that I have. So naturally, if power sharing is happening, we need 2 levels of government, right? We need 2 tiers of government. So federalism is basically a type of government where the power is divided between 2 tiers of government. Now, who are these 2 tiers or 2 levels of government? So it is central government and some other constituent units. Who are these constituent units if I tell you about? So they are basically the different provinces, the different states. So the provincial government, or you could say the state government over here. Okay? The state authority or the provincial authority and the central authority, these 2 come together, form the 2 level of government, and they together share the power. Okay. Now the interesting fact over here is that both of these tiers, bacha, actually share their own, they enjoy their own independent powers alone. I mean, there's an individuality that exists in a federal government, and which gives them the right to enjoy their own power independent of each other. Now, just because I have shared something with you, it doesn't mean that I have to always keep tagging along with you. You enjoy your own power, I will enjoy my own, and that is what is meant by federalism. Similarly, we have one more type of government, which is known as unitary government, which is very different and kind of opposite in nature to that of, federal government. Now, what do we mean by this? So over here in a unitary government, as the name also says, unitary. You might have heard about unitary method in maths, right? What does it mean? So you actually have to find the value of 1 no matter how many units are there, you actually find the value of 1 and you give that value for the other units. Similarly, in a unitary government, what happens? There is only one which has value, which means there is only one level of government which has the power. All the others are its subordinates. All the other governments are considered as its subordinates, which means that only one level will have power. The other levels will not have power. They're kind of answerable to this one level of government which has all the power. They are its subordinates and they are basically under it. They are lower to it. Okay. So naturally, if this is the hierarchy that we are following, there would be no separation of power. There will be no sharing of power. So we have only one central authority. The others are just over there, which kind of are high, in a hierarchy come lower to it, and they do not really share power. The entire power is constituted, associated in the center. Example, Sri Lanka and China. Now, we have already done 2 case studies, right? We have done 2 case studies in the previous session, right, of power sharing. So, if you see about it, we read about Belgium and Sri Lanka. So, the Belgium basically later turned out to be a federal country, federalism. It took up with federalism. However, Sri Lanka, because of which the actual conflict happened in the nation, it still retained its form, which is the unitary government. Now, now we will talk about the features, the characteristics of federalism. What is it that makes a country federal? Okay. So the most important, which we have already discussed, which it was its basic definition, that it has to have at least 2 or more levels of government, right? The government has to be divided into different tiers. For example, in India, we have, local or self-government, local self-government, state government and central government. So here 3 tiers are divided. Normally in most of the countries, there are 2 tiers, the central and the state or provincial government. Okay. Then of course, each level, okay, will have its own authority, will have its own power to make laws. Okay, by which we mean that it will have its own jurisdiction. Okay, bacha, so they will have their own power, own authority to make these policies, to make these laws. Now, who is defining these powers? I mean, like these powers or authorities that they have, it needs to be defined, right? So these things are actually defined in Constitution. So, but your Constitution is our go-to book. It's our referral book. It's our guidebook. It guides the entire government. It has all the rules well defined in it, that in which scenario what needs to be done. And as per this Constitution, as per these law, the power, the authority, the jurisdiction of all of these governments, what all things that they can act upon is also well defined in the government, which helps the government to run properly without any error, without any mistake. It guides them. Okay, so based on these rules, the authority, the power of each of these government is basically defined. Okay, and that is the jurisdiction of each tier, and that is how they get the power which is constitutionally guaranteed to them, promised to them. Okay, now the fourth one is fundamental provision of the Constitution that cannot be changed unilaterally, okay, by one level of government. What do we mean by this? So power is being shared, right? Now, eventually what will happen, bacha, we grow with time, we develop with time. So naturally, Constitution is a document. It's not a person who will adapt and change as per the time. So certain changes, certain reformations in this fundamental provisions would be required as we grow ahead with time. If you look into Constitution, multiple amendments have been made into it. Then how does these provisions change? What makes these provisional changes? So none of these government, okay, can just go get up one day and be like, hey, I need these things to be changed in the state, the matters of state, or the union government cannot just wake up and be like, oh my god, this is not going to work for the central government, so I want to change this in the Constitution tomorrow. What needs to be done is, because both of them are important, both of them have equal power, both of them need to come together, give their consent and make these changes together in these provisions, which means the change cannot be unilaterally done. It cannot be done at one level. Both the parties, both the levels of the government have to come together in order for these changes to take place. Okay, then judiciary. Now, what is the role of the judiciary? So, bacha, there are two levels of governments. There are two parties. There are at least two levels of governments. Naturally, when there are two parties, two entities, two people, there are chances of disagreements. There are chances of conflicts. Now, whenever such kind of conflicts, disagreements, or any question, any point of doubt, any scenario of that kind happens, we would need an umpire to resolve this kind of a situation, right? We need an umpire to take the decision in favor of one of the teams, one of the parties, one of the levels. Who will do this? So, in a federal government, the judiciary has the power to do this. The judiciary has the power to interpret the constitution, because constitution is open to multiple interpretations. It's a document. It's basically a written law. Anything which is written can be interpreted in a different way by different people. So, if we do not have an umpire, what will happen? The state will interpret it in its own favor. The central will do it in its own favor. So, we need a neutral party which interprets it in the correct way, with all the legalities, with the awareness of the legal implications, and makes the decision for both the parties. So judiciary does that. It acts as the umpire. For example, in India, we have Supreme Court. Then sources of revenue. Now, I am saying that both of these levels of governments are independent. So, in order to truly feel independent, the financial stability also has to be there, correct? I mean, if I become independent as a child, I need to have the financial stability, correct? If I am saying that my parents are independent and now I am also independent, they have left me to grow as an independent individual now. I am not dependent on them anymore. What do I mean by this? It also means that my revenues, my finances are sorted, and I don't have to depend on them, or they don't have to depend on me for the money. The same thing happens, bacha, with the two levels of government also. Neither of them are dependent on each other for their finances. Both of them, they have their own independence, financial independence. Both of them have their own financial autonomy. Whoever needs money for whatever, they have their own sources of revenue. They have their own sources of income, of finances to take care of, which assures them, which gives them the financial autonomy. Okay, now the next one is that what is the objective? We are saying that we have federal government, so it needs to have some objective, right? It needs to have some purpose. So the very first one is to promote unity. Now you might be thinking that, hey, aren't we sharing power? Aren't we dividing the power? If we are doing that, how will unity be assured? I mean, whenever you divide things, it basically doesn't unite those people. It creates a permanent segregation among those, right? But here the idea of division of power or separation of power is actually to assure unity in the terms. What happens if I give equal respect to each individual? If I give them individual powers, what will happen? There will be no conflicts. There will be no friction among them. It will reduce the chances of the conflicts, and now they will respect each other, and then they will work together in harmony, in peace, which also ensures unity, right? And the second one, of course, is to respect the regional diversity, especially in a country like India. Now there is so much of diversity, bacha. It of course will be difficult for so many diverse groups to have one single head to look up to. Now if you see, if you have so many different cultures, a single head will never be able to cater to all of these diversities. For example, Northeast has such a different culture. If I talk about, let's say, Mizoram, or if I talk about Sikkim, now such diversities are there in itself. And if there is only one person who takes care of that also, who takes care of Rajasthan also, who takes care of Tamil Nadu also, who takes care of Jammu and Kashmir also, imagine what will happen. Naturally, having one kind of rule for all of these parts of the same country, which is so diverse in so many ways, how difficult would it be for that person, for that head, for that one entity, for that one level of government, at the same time for the citizens of different parts as well. So in order to make sure that the desire, the requirements, whatever is the need of the citizens is met, we have created these divisions. Okay. Now, how does an ideal federal system look like? What does it look like in the best case scenario? So बच्चों, whatever the different levels are of a government, no matter 2, 3, 4, 5, however, I mean like whatever is the number, mutual trust is very important. See, that's the key of teamwork, right? And what is happening over here? Teamwork is happening. We are dividing different teams to achieve the same goal, which is the betterment of the same country, same nations, and the citizens, right? So mutual trust is very important. If both of us are working for the same cause, we need to trust each other in order to go towards growth, to move towards growth, right? And of course, agreement to live together, agreement that both of us will accommodate each other, support each other, and live together in the same space. Now, bachcho, there are two types of federations. Okay? One is called coming together, the other one is called holding together federation. Now, what are these? So, coming together, as the name suggests, coming together, which means federations that come together. So, what happens in this? There are different independent states. There's no nation initially. Okay, there are different states which are coming together, which are joining together, which are joining hands to form a bigger unit. The smaller units which were independent individually have now decided that no, it's okay, I will kind of give up my autonomy, not completely, but I will shake hands with you and we will also form a bigger unit. Okay, but in this kind of government, none of them have, despite of giving up their individuality slightly, they do not give up on the powers that they had, guys. Okay, they do not give up on the authorities that they had. And what happens? All of them come together with equal power. They're equal players in the game. Okay. Now, what kind of countries can we say are coming together federations? United States of America is one great example of this sort. Now, as you see, the name in itself says United States of America, which means America had different states which have now got united. So, these states were independent. They had their own power. They were existing individually, but they decided to come together. They decided to unite and become USA, United States of America. Though all of these states have their own individual power, which are equal in nature. No state is greater than the other state, or no central government is greater than any of the state governments. They have equal power, or they play on the equal level, equal ground, equal field. Okay. Now, there are more countries. We have Switzerland, we have Australia, also examples of coming together federation. Then we have holding together federation, which is an example of India. An example of this is India. Now, what happens in this case? So, bacha, in this case, what happens? It is the opposite of coming together. So, now the states are not coming together. In fact, there is a bigger unit which is already there. There is a large country that is already there in place. Then they realize that it will be difficult to cater to such a large country. So, a division of power needs to be done in order to keep a proper control, in order to cater to everybody. So, now they break into different forms of government. For example, constituent states and the national government. Okay. Now, in this case, what happens is that equal power play is not there. There's a slight variation, which is the central government is slightly superior than the constituent units. Okay. So you can say that kind of a hierarchy is formed, though it's not completely the same as unitary government as we saw. Okay, everyone has their individual power. It's not just the central government who has all the power, but they do have a superiority. So you can say, you can imagine it as the children of the same family. Everyone has their own say, everyone has their own individual power, but the elder sibling somehow always has a greater say over the other younger siblings. Like, so you can imagine the central government to be like the elder sibling who has the equal power, who has a lot of powers and similar powers as the other siblings as well. But the elder sibling will have a little supremacy, a little superiority compared to the other siblings, and that will make it that will give it a slightly inequality in terms of power that exists, right? This creates slight inequality because the central gets more power. However, the other constituent units also have their own power. Example: India, Spain and Belgium. Okay? So now guys, I quickly want to take a minute and talk about the problems that you guys are facing. And I've been talking about this very often these days, right? I mean, like, I know that there are a lot of issues that's going on, and because your exams are approaching, you might be having so many doubts. And I mean, like, you might be looking for the correct notes to refer to. Where do you find the tests, where do you find the practice tests, where do you find the practice assignments to look up for? Then of course, how do you prepare for the competitive exams and choice of schedule? I mean, like, with exams, where do I go, what kind of routine do I follow? And then of course, choice of language. That's the most important. This entire channel was created because of that. So we have come with a super solution for all of these problems, and not just one solution. We have also come up with a lot of bonuses for these, I mean, along with the solutions for your problems. So bacha, this is going to solve your problems not just with what you have what was required by you, what was asked by our dear students, but we're also giving you bonuses like unlimited live sessions, access to all the micro and crash courses. Let's say if you've missed on the explanation of power sharing, you don't have to worry. Power sharing will be happening every day through the micro sessions. There will be crash courses before the exams or during throughout the year to help you out with it. You can always go and attend the session. You will get live performance reports. Now right now you're preparing for your midterms. How would you be sure that where do you stand? For that we need performance reports, and that problem is also solved. And then of course personalized attention, right? I'm sure most of you right now would write while I'm explaining be feeling like, hey, I immediately want to ask this question to Ankana ma'am. How do I do that? So all you have to do is go and click on this link, vdnt.in/ytpro. When you click on this link, this will take you to a point where you can just come and ask these questions directly to me right in the session. And also you will have class teachers to help you out, just in case if I'm teaching at that moment. You wouldn't have to wait for your doubts to be resolved at the end of the session. So awesome guys, right? So all you have to do is go on that link, choose your grade, choose your board, check out all the details. You don't just have to listen to Ankana ma'am, you don't just have to believe Ankana ma'am. All those details are right there for yourself. You can check it out and then just hit on the get subscription button. You will have 3 options: 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whichever suits you the best. Go ahead with it guys. If you go ahead with a plan of 6 months, it will actually cost you less than a packet of chips per day. We end up having so many packets of chips, chocolates, so many. We spend on that so much money. Why not to spend on the Pro Lite subscription, which is also going to solve all of these issues and assure so much of marks in the examination, correct? And how can we do that? So all you need to do is, as I told you, visit this link and use the code AKEPRO and the coupon code required. This will give you huge discount guys, and you will be a part of the Vedanta family. I would love to see you guys in the live sessions. I will be waiting for you to be there. Okay, make sure you be there. Just in case if you decide not to, no problem, we will move ahead. Now we will talk about what makes India a federal country. Now we've been talking about, okay, this is federation, this is what it is, different types of federation, but what qualifies India into it? So bacha, when the constitution was formed, when India became independent, it was after a long struggle. And when the constitution came into place, it did not it's not written anywhere, it did not define in terms of the definition, typical definition, India as a federal government. It's just the way we function, it's just the structuring of the country is in such a way that we know it looks like a federation, it looks like a federal government. So what happened bacha, and how have we established this? So when it got independent, there were a lot of princely states as well. What happened when this nation came into existence? All these princely states also became the part of this country, and that declared this country as Union of States as per the constitution. Yeah, because all these states came together and they united. So we recognize this as the Union of States. So that is what is the essence of the word of federation, right? Unity, uniting together and on different levels, right? So the word federation is not written in the constitution, but the way we function, the principles of the country defines it that we are a federal government. Okay. Now, bacha, when we got independence, and when we established the country, when we established the government and it started running, there were only 2 tiers as per most of the country, we also had only two tiers of government. But in 1990s, we realized that hey, it's not really working for us because of the kind of diversities that we have. Even in the states, what will happen? The cities, the towns are different, and the villages have a different culture. If you go in anywhere, it doesn't matter where. If I think about my own state, Jharkhand, the cities are very, very different from what kind of people are there in the government. Even if I have a single state government, it might not be able to cater to the villages, to the very remote areas, because the culture over there might be very, very different from the culture in the towns and the cities of the state. So in order to make sure that we are not leaving them out, we are not leaving the diversities in terms of cities and towns and villages also, the countryside also, in 1990s we decided to decentralize the government, to divide the power further into a third tier, okay, which led to the birth of the panchayats or the municipalities. Okay, so the constitution divided a clear, the constitution was clearly providing a threefold distribution of legislative power, which led to, which gave a clear list of power. So, Bacha, if you remember, just a few minutes before, I told you that the constitution has defined these powers for all the tiers of the government very, very clearly, right? The authority, the power of all the forms of the governments have been clearly described. So where is it described? What is it called? So it is known as the three lists of the constitution: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Now let's talk about these three lists. So the first one, the union list. Now as the name suggests, obviously this is for the union government, this is for the central government, right? So now it is talking about union list, right? Which means the topics, the subjects which is there for the entire Union of India must be a part of this, correct? So what should be uniform throughout the country? So these subjects, the subjects which you would want to make a uniform law across the entire country, which should have uniform policy for the entire country, where we cannot differentiate based on the diversities. These are the things which have to be common across, come under this list. For example, currency. You cannot have a different currency for Jammu and Kashmir, then have different for Himachal Pradesh, and then for Tamil Nadu. No, that doesn't make sense. The currency has to be the same for everyone, right? The defense has to be the same for everyone, because defense is for the entire country. We defend as India, not as states. That's not our identity. So subjects like defense of country, foreign affairs, banking, communications, and currency fall under this list. Then there are subjects which states cater to, because these are there is a lot of variation from one state to the other. So what happened? This list gave the power to the state, these subjects to the state, depending upon their diversities, their culture, their existence, whatever their history has been, to make decisions according to them, according to their people, according to their culture, to cater all of them and not leave anybody out. So these are subjects like police, trade, commerce, agriculture, and irrigation. But if you see, agriculture in north is very different, right? And that in the south is very different. That in the east is very different. That in the west is very different. And that in the central India is very different. Why? Different types of soil, different types of climate, different types of requirement, different types of asks. All of this, the demand and the supply, all of these are different for different states, right? For example, in Kerala we have more spices. However, in Bihar we may have more sugarcane, more rice, and in Punjab and Haryana we have more cereals, and similarly for different places we have different things growing up, right? In Himachal the production of apples will be more, so cold that we cannot produce all the crops over there, but we can always grow oranges, we can always grow apples, right? So these are the different agricultural products for different parts of the country. So similarly, the kind of variations that will there needs to be catered, which the state will know very well of, which the central government might not be so well aware of. So the jurisdiction to these things are given to the state, and it's the state that makes the laws on these things. Okay, because they have to meet the requirement of their state. The requirement may be, the aspiration, the requirement may be different from state to state. And then we have concurrent list. Now, as the name suggests, concurrent means both of them have their own interest, right? So the subjects like education, forest, trade unions, marriage, adoption and succession, both union and governments can make their laws on this. It may be, like few governments may be following the laws made by the central government, few states may be making their own laws. For example, even when the lockdown happened, right? When the lockdown was being uplifted, what happened? The central government from its own level said that we have removed the lockdown. We are opening the entire nation. Now it is left up to the state. If they feel that they want to, they don't want to open up, they can go ahead with lockdown. And my state, Jharkhand, actually kept on going ahead with the lockdown. West Bengal kept on going ahead with the lockdown for a very, very long period of time, despite of central government lifting it up. So these topics, such decisions are left up to the state government. Sometimes the central government make the decisions, right? So if their laws conflict with each other, now over here, as I told you, the elder sibling always has the upper hand, right? So the union government will always have the upper hand. So in case in such laws, if there is a conflict, okay, the state is not agreeing with the union government, then of course whatever decision is made by the elder sibling, whatever decision is made by the union government will prevail. And then comes one more list which has subjects called residuary subjects. What are residuary subjects, Bacha? So residuary, if I talk about in literal terms, means things which are left behind, the remaining behind materials. So see, when the constitution was being framed, naturally the constitution makers were not very sure of a lot of things that was going to come ahead in future. For example, computer softwares. At that time, computer did not used to exist in such capacity, and there are going to be so many other things that is going to keep coming as we go ahead in time, as we develop, as we advance, right? So these kind of subjects, what happens, which are missing in the constitution, fall under this list which has the residuary subjects. And the central government again has extra power over here, which makes it superior, is that they have the authority to make laws on such subjects. For example, computer software, right? Okay, so a lot of news is there right now that so many apps have been banned, right? PUBG has been banned and people are like going crazy, like, wait, how has PUBG been banned? So yeah, that's a part of the residuary subject. Okay, and with this, guys, we come to the end of the session. Let's quickly look at your homework question. The state government in India have the power to legislate on all those subjects which are included in the union list, state list, concurrent list or residuary subjects. Which one is the correct answer? But don't forget that you have to put your answer in the comment box, not just in the live chat. And remember, all your problems are going to be sorted. You just have to go and click on this link and apply the code AKEPRO to avail the discount. Okay? And don't forget to like the video if you feel that this video really helped you understand what is federation, what makes India as federation, and we will discuss more on the three-tier government in more detail in the next session. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the next video is going to come out very, very soon, and you should get the notification before anyone else does. Correct? And guys, make sure you're putting your doubts in the comment section so that I can pick it up and discuss and clarify all your doubts in the doubt and the mentee session. Okay guys, I will see you in the next session. Until then, stay home, stay safe, take care, have a great day ahead. Bye bye guys.